Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today we're going to be talking about Exalt Nuit by Navitus Parfums. So stay tuned for that. If you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Really do appreciate it. Navitus is a brand that originally released, I believe, 7 fragrances, and the creative director was Steven from Redolessence. They did a team up with Big Beard Business to do a line. I believe he's got 5 releases, and I decided to pick one up, Exalt Nuit, because this is one that really sounded like it would appeal to me. I also did like Soir Exclusif, the sound of that one. I do have a decant on the way, so hopefully I'll get that. I'll be able to check it out. But before we get into the video, guys, I'm going to need you to do me a favor. I'm going to need you to tell a friend that we are back again, and hit the goddamn bell. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, I'm going to actually get into the fragrance. I'm going to talk about the fragrance. Now, the presentation is a little bit different than the other Navitus fragrances, and I gotta say I actually do like it. I think the black matte finish goes really well with this fragrance, what this fragrance smells like, and I will talk about that in a second. I like the cap too. The cap is a nice upgrade. I like the cap a lot more than the original line that it kind of looked a little bit like a disco ball. It was, it was all right, but I definitely like this. It looks a little bit sleeker, a little bit classier. And of course, you have the fragrance name on the front. It has the same atomizer on it. I will say the atomizer on this thing is amazing. So it's pressure distributed, so you can do a half spray, you can do a quarter spray, whatever you like. And it's very easy to manage how much fragrance you actually get. So that is what the presentation looks like for this one. It is a nice, classy, sleek bottle. And I do like the actual black matte finish. Now, I've had this fragrance for a couple days, and I've basically had it on since I got it, mostly for testing purposes. I wanted to get a really good feel for it. I wanted to give it a fair description and a fair assessment. And so I've had this one on for about 3 days. So I will admit, the first time I put this on was not an instant love for me, the opening. And I even felt like the opening was a little bit challenging. Just having smelled it more, I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think the biggest thing with the opening is there is a ton of anise in it. So you really do get this kind of black licorice vibe where it's really, really dark, and the anise is really, really strong. And so you get that really big punch in the face of this kind of dark licorice vibe, which, to be honest with you, and this is really why you should try fragrances, more than once. I actually have grown to really like the opening. It is quite nice. It's very dark. I get only a little bit of cocoa, so it's not a very sweet chocolate. It's more like a really dark chocolate with, again, that licorice vibe, really, really strong. Now, the one aspect of this fragrance that I don't like is as it moves into the mid. I actually don't know if I'm going nose blind to it temporarily, but as it moves into the mid, it seems to almost fade off my skin. I don't really get a lot of the fragrance pushing off. That licorice vibe tones down a lot. The darkness kind of tones down a lot. And I get only a sort of reminiscence of sort of a hay-like tobacco, which originally had me worried, but fortunately the dry down is actually really amazing. But there is this sort of midpoint or mid portion where I'm not a big fan of the fragrance, I will be honest with you. And it does kind of seem to disappear off my skin. So I do like the opening quite a bit. The mid, which is about maybe an hour at the most, I kind of, like I said, lose track of the smell almost entirely. I could be smelling it like directly off my hand. I don't really pick it up at all. So at first I really felt like, or thought that the fragrance, just didn't perform very well. But sure enough, it does come back, and in the dry down is actually really, really nice. And it does have this really thick, robust tobacco vibe. Now, there is something about the tobacco that it feels actually marshmallowy. Now, there's a slight sweetness, and it doesn't really smell like marshmallows, but there is something about the fragrance where it has this texture that comes off like a big, fluffy marshmallow, and it has this very deep, rich tobacco. And I was trying to think about what kind of tobacco fragrance this really smells like, and to me it doesn't really remind me of anything, which is a nice thing. I would definitely give this fragrance points for originality, because from the opening to the finish, it doesn't really smell like anything else to me. Nothing that I've gotten my nose on before. And I was a little concerned that maybe this would have, because it has cocoa and it has tobacco. And I find that like a lot of fragrances like Enigma and Red Tobacco and Carlisle, in the dry down they get this kind of chocolatey tobacco vibe. And I was thinking that this might go in that same direction, but it doesn't. So it does come off quite a bit different than that. There is a little bit of cocoa. I get a little bit of a chocolatey vibe in the dry down, but it stays this sort of dark, rich, very full tobacco, very deep. And I think that's because there are two different kinds of tobacco absolute in this. So that could be something that really brings out that richness. And like I said, there's something like a sweet, fluffy kind of quality that makes me think of like a marshmallow, even though that's not actually a note. I know there is marshmallow in Soir Exclusif, but not in this one. And like I said, it doesn't smell full on like a marshmallow. There's just something that gives me that impression. So, you know, it does have this very robust, very thick, and very classy smell the entire way through. And I would say, you know, ultimately the dry down, it is a little bit sensual. It's not extremely sensual. It's not very like, I mean, there's other fragrances that are really, really nice for dates that have a very sensual vibe. A lot of times I say this about gourmand fragrances. This doesn't really full on go in that direction, but it does have a little hint of that. It does have a touch of that, one reason why I think you could wear this on a date. Now, I will say that I saw a video recently that Big Beard Business did do, where he did talk about this as being a very mass appealing fragrance. Well, I do think that this is an easy to wear fragrance. I don't know that it would be the most mass appealing. I don't think it, especially in the dry down, I think it is potentially very easy to wear, and a lot of people will like it. I think that potentially the opening could put people off because it is very, very strong, very heavy on the anise, and does have this really dark black licorice kind of a vibe, which is, I actually have grown to really enjoy it. So I don't think it's one that's going to be particularly challenging, even though I felt that a little bit on the first sniff. But I also don't know that I would say it's a super mass appealer. That's just what I would say. But it is absolutely, I think, what he said he set out to do with this one, which is a classy, mysterious gentleman's fragrance. And this fits the bill exactly for that description. I think it's very classy, very elegant, and there is something in that darkness, that tobacco, the little hint of cocoa, and the anise that makes it very much a very dark and mysterious fragrance. And personally, I can't think of another fragrance that is as dark as this. The only thing that really makes me perhaps sometimes think it might be as dark as this is Noir de Noir. Not that it smells like that at all, but there is this really, really dark vibe to that fragrance as well that I think shares in common with this, but they do smell totally different. Although I will say that the cocoa in this sometimes comes off a little bit truffly, which again is really, really nice. So it's not an overly complex fragrance, and I think that is one of the things that does maybe make it lean a little bit more mass appealing, is that it is a fairly straightforward fragrance, but it does change a little bit over the development of the fragrance, so it does not open and end the same way. It's not completely linear. There are things happening and unfolding, and it is dark and mysterious, and frankly, it does have an addictive quality to it. So, like I said, first time I sniffed this, I wasn't that big a fan of it. Of course, I had it on, so I just kept sniffing it, and it was one that I found I kept sniffing more and more and more, and definitely, now, the dry down I always liked immediately, but that opening also started to grow on me. So, honestly, I think this is a really nice release. Really enjoy this one. I think it is something that could easily be a full winter signature scent for someone. It is something that I definitely also would agree this fragrance is, if you were to pick one situation to put this on, suit and tie. Absolutely has that that quality to it, that mysterious dark thing. You could see like a James Bond type of person wearing a fragrance like this. So ultimately, very nice. Now, performance also good. I should say, to me, I actually didn't think it was that strong, and it's not as strong as, say, something like Annie, which is nuclear. But I did have this one on, and somebody could smell it in the hallway. Now, I personally didn't get the same experience. I had it on a test strip. I smelt it a little bit as I came back into the room, but it wasn't like super overpowering or super strong. So it does have some good projection for 2-3 hours. And I would say this, for me, lasts over 8 hours, closer to the 10-hour mark. So it does have good longevity as well. And I think this is a great release. I'm looking forward to trying Soir Exclusive. And, hopefully it's going to be as good as this one. Very nice release, unique, high quality tobacco fragrance. If you really want something with a lot of tobacco, this is a good choice. Like I said, though, if you are adverse or don't like anise, you will not like the opening to this fragrance. As I said, found it a little challenging at first because it is so in your face, but really grew on me. And another thing I'll say is that, well, the last thing I'll say about this one, I have enough fragrances that I typically wear something different every day. But for the last 3 days or so, I've had this on all day, every day. And I haven't actually gotten tired of it, which to me says something very good about it. The quality that it brings and the uniqueness factor and that little bit of mysteriousness that it has as well. Very nice, very good release. So I would, of course, recommend that you get your nose on it. I know a lot of people don't like blind buying. I'm also not a huge fan of blind buying. I did a little split on this one so that I could save myself a little bit of money and not have to pay for the entire thing, which, again, another thing I would recommend doing if you're wanting to pick up partials or have partials and build your collection with, out spending quite as much money. Anyways, guys, I'm going to cut the video there. Exalt Nuit by Navitus Parfums. Have you tried anything from Navitus? Have you tried anything from the new line, the Enamored collection with Big Beard Business? Let me know in a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.